I'm Clotis Johnstone. I went to UK as an undergraduate and graduated with a degree in plant and soil science. I'm now teaching at Kennedy Metro Middle School. It's an alternative middle school here in Louisville for students who have been removed by their school or the Board of Education for behavior problems of various levels, and they're now in a more structured setting at my school, and I teach in a science classroom. A lot of my students know the right behaviors, but often display the wrong behaviors because they're used to getting attention for those behaviors. And a lot of the students need attention, whether it's positive or negative. And unfortunately, in a setting of 30 students, a lot of times you get more attention for doing the wrong thing than doing the right thing. For some students, it's kind of ignoring the bad behavior, which seems kind of counterintuitive, but not giving an initial response, kind of letting it die down on its own is a good technique. Although it's not necessarily protocol, kind of embarrassing them in front of their peers for the technique, talking about how that's not the way people act in high school, in middle school, moving on to high school is a big thing. So talking about how high school peers would view that behavior kind of gets students to think a little bit more about how they'd like to be in the future instead of right there in the moment. So those are two things I found that work well. I found that finding the most experienced or often a young teacher that is in the profession and has really gotten a strong foothold is more helpful than a very experienced colleague because they remember being in your shoes and picking up little behavior management techniques or classroom techniques that work from them has been really helpful. So even though you're really overwhelmed your first couple weeks, going and observing other teachers can be really helpful. As naive as it sounds now, I think what caught me off guard is that the students, none of them want to learn. It seems like that's an exaggeration, but very few of them come into the classroom to learn. They've got other things going on at home or in the streets that are more important to them than school at that point. And so motivating them to learn is a really, really big issue and making it important for them. So I guess that was really surprising to me. A lot of my students are kind of, Kennedy is their last straw, and so working out consequences and motivating them to learn has been difficult for me. We've worked on various things, and different things work for different students. Some students, you start with a warm-up or a short video off YouTube that relates to the curriculum, but maybe relates more to them, and then you tie it to the curriculum. Sometimes that works really well. Relationships are really important, and I'll be the first to admit I struggle with them. I know one student, I had had him for almost 6 weeks, and he had done basically nothing in my class. And it was right after the ice storm in January last year, and my car had gotten hit by a tree. And I guess I had my insurance papers or something up on my desk, and somehow we started talking about my car getting crushed. And that student was very, very into mechanics and was into redoing cars, the big bodies, the rims, and somehow we started talking about that. And ever since then, or ever, like, from there on, that student was more willing to work in my class just because I guess to him I was just a teacher and I didn't deal with car problems or the sorts of things people deal with in everyday life. So developing any sort of relationship, any level on which you can connect to that student and I checked back up on that car. You wanted to know about the seal they put in my door to replace the current seal. And so developing a relationship no matter what it takes, and realizing that no matter how different your students are from you, you do have some things in common. Finding those common elements is really important. They always say you're surviving your first year, and I definitely agree that's true. I know on a personal level I'm a little harder on myself the second year because when I make mistakes, I know that if I had have had the foresight, I would have known that was a mistake. So I'm focusing a little bit more on curriculum. I'm working in some pre-testing, kind of so that I know where my students stand, and I like to see their growth, because a lot of times we're getting in students constantly. And so knowing where they come in, because I haven't had them from the beginning of the year, seeing even small increments of growth is important for both them and me, because it can be a huge motivator for the students. So I guess my second year I've focused a little more on curriculum. I do have kids coming in and out of my classroom constantly. Every 6 weeks we have a large exit date where a lot of students go back to their home schools, hopefully for good. And on a daily basis, basically, I get new students in from schools that have been sent there by the board. And I guess one thing that I often forgot to do in my first year, and still sometimes struggle with, is reviewing my routines, the basic procedures in my classroom. And you have to come down to that student's level and realize this is their first day there, whereas the other 12 kids may know exactly what's going on in your room. If you don't take the time to review that with the student, what we should do in this classroom, how my classroom runs as opposed to your other classrooms, you can get both of you and the student off on the wrong foot, because you immediately think defensively that this student's breaking my rules, and this student is completely bewildered why you're upset with them. So I think reviewing procedures is really important every time you get a new student. And even if you were in a regular setting, I would imagine it'd be very important to review frequently, because you also get new students and students forget what you expect of them.